With that, I yield, Madam Clerk.
Attorney Torres, I thank you for coming down, because there was a lot of concern about this, and I know that, I know that you had said it was difficult to speak about it because it was in litigation, et cetera, and I can respect that. But at the same time, I think that there was a lot of people from both sides that wanted to know what would happen. What would happen if the ordinance wasn't changed, if something wasn't changed? What would that mean for upcoming bids? And we didn't want to see that happen. So if everything's going back to pre-REO, so that at least the bidding can start, I think that's a bit helpful. Councilor Casey, you have a question?
I just want to ask Attorney Torres, if we struck out that ordinance and...
In the microphone, Councilor.
If we struck out that ordinance and just kept the old ordinance, would that be something that would help correct the problem?
There are provisions of both that are being challenged.
But you're saying if
Okay.
you struck the whole thing.
You'd have to strike the whole ordinance. The
Ordinance and change...
the residency requirements, the apprenticeship requirements.
All right. You want to make a motion to strike the entire ordinance and keep what was there before?
Put through a proposed ordinance to strike out.
Strike out the ordinance.
Is there a second on that?
I got to abstain. One of my sons works for the company.
Okay.
As you heard the people, individual last week who spoke on it, and I think for me to vote one way or the other, I couldn't do it. I got myself in trouble. So
Okay.
I will abstain from voting on this one.
So the motion to strike out and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
No, for me. 3 yeas, 1 nay.
And one abstention.
Yep, and 1 abstention. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Are you looking to do this with an emergency preamble to?
We can.
Motion for emergency preamble.
I think Leo did.
I did.
Motion for emergency preamble.
Huh? She didn't vote for it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Voted 3 yeas, 1 nay, and 1 abstention to recommend the accompanying proposed ordinance, accompanied by an emergency preamble, be passed through first reading, second reading, passed to be enrolled, and passed to be ordained, with Councilor Pereira voting in the negative and Councilor Pelletier abstaining. This is the proposed ordinance with regard to the responsible employer ordinance.
I would make a motion that we send that back to ordinance.
Second.
Motion
Roll
to
Roll call.
refer back to the ordinance committee has been made and seconded. On the motion, Council seat 4, Council Lund.
Thank you, President Kamara. This came out of ordinance because we've been approached by a number of small businesses that felt that this particular piece that was passed early in the year was very harmful for them, giving them the opportunity to bid on potential projects in and around this city. And I think it's an issue that's already been challenged in the courts. And when this issue came before the city years ago, the city, in some manner, did end up footing some type of bill for this. I think we have the opportunity to get all parties back over. If it was a bad piece of legislation, let's start over. Let's get everybody involved and do it right, rather than going to court, fighting another court battle, have this thing lingering and lingering. In the meantime, the little guy pays the price. And I just think it gives us a good opportunity to start over. Let's get it right. That is equally beneficial to the larger unions, but also protects the smaller private shops here in the city of Fall River. With that, I yield.
Thank you, Council. Council seat 5, Council Mitchell.
Yeah, the reason I asked that it go back to ordinance is that I feel that my colleague in seat 7 has the capability of bringing both sides together. And we were also told by Attorney Torres this evening, though I didn't join in the discussion at the time, that we would revert back to where the ordinance was prior to passage of this, and this would give us an opportunity to look at it, tweak it, hopefully resolve it. And that's why I asked it to go back to Councilor Pereira's committee. I yield.
Thank you, Counsel. Counsel in seat 2, Counsel Casey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with my colleague in seat number 4 totally. I think that when this was done, it was done in a way that we thought that it was done properly, and obviously, we're in a lawsuit right now, and for us to send it back to committee, it's something that we really can't do any speaking about because of the legal action, and anything that we discuss can be used against the city. So I think what we did by sending it to the full council and voting to take it off the ordinance committee, take it, when we voted to stop the ordinance and revert back to the old ordinance, I think was the proper way to go. That in the future, if we want to do something, we can do it and make sure that it's done and done in the right way. But I think hurting the businesses, the small businesses, and creating a situation that's going to be bad for businesses coming into Fall River, I think that's wrong. And I think that it should be voted on by the full council here. With that, I yield.
Thank you, Counsel. Counsel seat 8, Counsel Poulin.
Thank you, Mr. President. In my opinion, I believe this should have been tabled in the committee. I believe that the Corporation Council gave some sound advice. We were in a position where it wasn't costing the city because we were handling it in-house. Both sides, were, and including the city, we were waiting to see how the court was going to come back with its ruling in terms of what parts were constitutional and weren't constitutional. At that point, we could have tweaked it. I think to repeal the whole thing now, we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and I thought it should have been tabled, so I'm gonna vote in favor of sending it back to committee. With that, I yield.
Thank you, Counsel. Counsel seat 4, Counsel Lund.
I know that the council wants to move it along to more pressing matters, but to say that it's being handled in-house and it doesn't come at a cost is not quite an accurate description. We just had to hire another lawyer in the city of Fall River because the volume of work and the amount of litigation we are on a number of issues throughout this city is at such a high volume. This body passed a piece of legislation that got challenged, that is now in court. We are having to now deal with that. That takes up time and resources that perhaps would be better applied to other fights that have a significant impact on this city. What I am suggesting is, let's just start over. Mistakes were made, start over, start from scratch. Let's not wait for a judge to determine what the outcome of what this is. Let's get all the parties involved, try and draft a piece of legislation that meets everybody's objectives. Let's do the work in this body, not let lawyers make money, not take from the resources of the law department that's badly needed in all the other fights that we're having, LNG, adult entertainment, and as such. And let's try and do the body of work here, and then move forward, rather than let it sit in the courts, and in the end, we get told what to do.